Pawsitive Tales ELC Podcast with me, Jennifer Riveros. Today we are so excited to talk with a high schooler here at ELC. Hi, my name is Paola Cruz. I am currently a senior here. I am in the Tech Academy, Mr. Chase pathway, and I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, thank you for coming here. So, what are your favorite 3 books? Like just to get us introducing what you think about literature, what books you like, and what is your niche in literature. It's been a while since I've read a book, but I do have 3 books in mind. One of the first ones that comes up in my head is The Book Thief. I think I read this one middle school, and I don't know, it's something about the characters and just how the story surrounds the relationships that are built between them. I usually tend to read books that are really very character driven and relationship driven, and I think that's why I really appreciated that book, because it kind of gives you perspective of how people bond with each other. And usually for me, stories that have they give you a sense of the human experience and what it's just basically to live as a person in this world. Those are the type of stories that I like to read. One of my favorites is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, just because you kind of get a different perspective of that human experience. I've had moments in my life where I felt very disconnected with people, and that novel you kind of get a sense of you can have a different perspective of life, but if you think that you're disconnected from everyone and you think that you don't belong, just a matter of having that switch in your brain, you realize that having those feelings of disconnect and loneliness, they don't make you any more alien or disconnected, but rather you are proving to yourself by feeling those things that you are human and that you're everyone else. And then another favorite book of mine is They Both Die at the End. Heart-wrenching. That one. I absolutely love that book. I absolutely love the author, what he does with his characters, what he does with relationships. It's just again, it shows another aspect of human nature, wanting to find connection with someone in a moment of disdain, and just letting life be life and just enjoying yourself, even if it's in your very last few moments. I love so literature that has just characters or it's character driven and relationship driven. And that's a great point, and it lets you know from other perspectives, from other people's mind, and it puts you in other people's shoes, even if they're fantasy. Even in fantasy worlds, you can relate to the characters, because the way that the book is written, or how just the character is treated, it makes you feel that you are that character. I relate to that. I also love that type of reading experience. So, what would you say that is your favorite genre of books to read? Genre? Currently, I've been really into I've been reading a lot more romance, not book talk romance. If you know, you know. If you know what I'm talking about, you know the book talk romance is not the type of romance I'm into. Jane Austen, for example. I love the author, classical author Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, live by her. I think it's a matter of finding books that really show you not just the good parts of what a relationship is supposed to be or what a romantic experience is supposed to be it's also the ugly sides and things people don't usually like to talk about, the struggles of getting into a relationship in the first place. I think a matter of not romanticizing everything, but rather just having again the human experience that comes with love. I think that's why I enjoy romances so much, because they're just full of emotion, and they're full of you feel what those characters feel. Romance books have always been in history. Romance has always been a topic in literature. I get what you mean of having those stories that show different sides of romance, because since it is literature and it's like emotions and these stories that the past has told to us of like the princess and the savior, or just overall stories, it always emphasizes love that is so passionate.
Yeah, like the connection between two people. And I think that's why I like it so much. You're just like, I am a person who likes to connect with others, like on a deep, like level. And literature just kind of brings you into a world of other people doing this exact same thing, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, I agree with that. So from what I have seen, you have read some good amount of books. What book would you recommend to someone?
What would I recommend? I haven't read this book yet, and I'm planning on to. But one book I would definitely recommend reading, especially right now in our current state of like matters and like especially here in the United States, I would definitely recommend reading 1984 by George Orwell. A lot of the stuff that I've been seeing, like if you look at the news, if you look at social media, it's just like the book, it's like a dystopian world where the government takes control of the media and it uses it to brainwash its people. And it's about this man trying to fight against that. In the world, it was just like everything's like controlled by a utilitarian government, and you kind of get the perspective of like you don't realize you're being brainwashed until it's like very late. And I think it's very, very applicable to the current state of the world where like big political figures, they use like social media and they use like the news as an outlet to like create like this divide in a country when and we should be like connected and we should realize like there's issues that we should care about, but because there's just so much more emphasis on other things that are like controlled by these political figures, it's a matter of like it opens up worldview of hey, this is going on. But yeah, I recommend reading 1984 just because it kind of gives you like a perspective of what government does in situations where it knows it can easily like manipulate its people and how people are not aware of it. Yeah.
I think what you were also trying to say is that as a reader, when you read that book and it gives you that perspective of someone that is trying to fight actively against being brainwashed, it also makes you like question yourself, question being more critical with the things that you
that's the thing I was getting at.
Exactly.
Like those type of novels are the ones that kind of like they expand your critical literacy. You understand like that not everything's black and white, not everything is as people may say it is, because obviously like we live in a digital world, we don't like really know what's real anymore, like you know, like with like the progress and like the rise of like AI, like you never know. Like it's just so much uncertainty, and picking up that novel, you feel like you understand that your world is uncertain, and because there's certain things that people are doing to make you feel like it's not everything is as it seems, because it gives you that perspective of like someone trying to like fight back against like this utilitarian government that has complete control of the media, and it's just like that's it's very applicable.
Yeah. So now that you talk about books that you haven't read but you will recommend, if you have $100, $100 to buy books or novels, what would you buy?
Oh, girl, books are expensive right now. I feel like I would only
$100 doesn't last for 5 books.
Well, like that's like for like 5
what will
books.
be your 5 books then?
My 5 books. Believe it or not, I haven't actually read The Hunger Games, and that's another one that I feel like it's very applicable right now. I want to buy The Hunger Games. I want to read the series.
But like the saga of The Hunger Games, or just like the first book?
I'd say the saga, honestly. Like all 3, the first 3 at least. The first 3 books.
Please buy it so I can borrow.
Oh yeah, definitely those. Another one that I really wanted to read was Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Jones.
A book?
Yes, it's a book. It's originally a novel.
And I feel like a poser now.
It's a series of novels, and I really want to read them because I heard it like, I thought you gotta kind of get like a little bit like more in like detail of like Howl's perspective in the book. Just like I really want to read it.
Now I want to read it.
Yeah, it's like very, very, very sweet, very cute. If we're talking like other types of like media that like if we're talking about any other like other type of media that like I want to read and get, I would definitely buy again romance. I really like romance, and one of my favorite series of manga is Fruits Basket.
Oh, it has a. Oh, you mean like the actual manga?
Yeah, the actual manga. I think it would fulfill my dreams of just like being like, oh, every time I turn the page, I'm like, oh, it's so cute. I love romance. I love Fruits Basket. I would definitely want to
Definitely
buy the physical copies.
Does it come like a series, or does it come like a collection? You know, like the big book with chapters.
I have the first volume of the collector's edition, so yeah, it's definitely like it's not like the little volumes that you get. It's a couple of volumes in one, so I would definitely want to get those because like I think they're like very cute and they look nice on my shelf.
Is it big?
She's like a little thick, like
no, I mean like the entire collection.
No, it's only 12.
12, only 12 volumes? I thought it was bigger.
It's 12 for the collector's edition just because they're thicker.
Ah, oh, that's a lot.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot.
It's like, no, it's 12 big books. Okay, moving on to the next question. So, more going into your own experience and what you do with the literature you read. Do you write your own stories or poems, or are you interested in?
I always feel like I put more in my mouth than I can take. And I've always felt like that, where like I do things and I say things to like make it seem like I'm smarter than I am.
Oh god.
And it's maybe just because I have like terrible imposter syndrome. But I would definitely like love to write my own story someday. Like I had tried it like years ago. I remember I was like trying to like write my own book, but I was like what, like 12 years old at the time. Like I did not know any I barely knew anything about like proper grammar and like English literature and stuff. Like I did not know what I was doing. You could probably find me one of these days, probably like if I do pick up like if a pen or if I do start typing something down, it'll probably end up being like my first thing that I write will probably be fan fiction. Just because like I on the creative side I'm not really like all that like I don't think I have like the capacity to like come up with like original characters and such, but I would definitely like love to write my own story. Like it just shows like people who write like lots of novels, like I have so much respect for writers. I think they are like immensely creative and completely like connected with themselves because they're able to like share stories and have people relate to them, and I really enjoy that. I definitely write my own poetry sometimes. I don't really follow like any like poetic verse formats or anything. I just write what I feel.
Yeah, you're not technical.
Yeah, I'm not a technical like poet. Like I'm not rhyming every other word. I'm just like if I feel something like a really strong emotion, I'll just like write it out. I think that's another thing. I love poems. I love poetry. Poetry in itself, to me, apart from books making you feel things, make you feel connected, and like I said, like I enjoy reading about like the human experience from like other perspectives. Poetry to me, it shows you emotions. Like it doesn't tell you, it shows you the emotions that these authors are feeling. And I think that is such a like I said, it's such a like an incredibly like creative thing, and I enjoy it very much. So I would definitely love to write my own story, and I do definitely enjoy writing poetry.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
Because I understand what you mean with the poetry, because in poetry it's a shorter format. Of course, there's poets like Shakespeare that wrote entire novels, and they mix like part of storytelling with poetry. But most of the poems that people do when they are like very very emotional, they are more for giving an idea or expressing an emotion in a shorter way. With like, they are so creative. Like poets, I feel like storytelling nowadays as a writer might feel lighter than in the past, because in the past, well, you know, people had to know like how to go to an academy and learn how to write and have all of these things, all of this knowledge before writing a book. But nowadays people are more comfortable with just reading stories that sound and feel more casual. But with poetry, I feel like you can be casual about it, you know, like you can absolutely use common language, but you still have to have this ideas and these feelings and this creativity on your words that allow you to use poetry in the sense that you can put ideas and emotions in a short form. So yeah, I definitely understand why poetry is more emotionally like connection, more emotional connected to you. I get that. I'm more of a like storytelling person. If you have read my essays and you can recognize the structures that all of them have, that is like past and the present, or maybe future, because I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'm on a different. Yeah, I think that's why I write more poetry than anything, because I'm like on the other spectrum where like I'm not much of a storyteller. I'm more like I'm an emotional person. I want you to feel what I feel, and so when I write things, they're like very metaphorical.
Yeah,
they're
very so metaphorical.
I know. Like they're very metaphorical. Like I want you to have like this picture in your head of like what it feels like to be me.
So when you were talking about your favorite books, you mentioned that in middle school you read the book that you mentioned. Sorry, I forgot the name.
The Book Thief?
Yeah, The Book Thief. You mentioned that one. In middle school, so do you maybe had a teacher or a parent or someone that recommended that book to you that inspiring you to start reading?
I had always, since a kid, I've always been into reading. I remember I was part of a book club myself in elementary school.
Oh.
I've always been. People call us nerds for reading. I take that as a compliment. I read and I gain more knowledge than you do if you don't.
Yeah.
but
feels better.
But that book to me, it was like a really good coincidence that I happened to like fall upon it, just because it was a book that was given to us because I assume it was a book we were gonna read for a class, but we never did. And it was collecting dust on my shelf, and I picked it up and I started reading it, and I just felt like very connected from like the first few pages. The book is told from the perspective of death, and death being personified, and having like this like narration of think of me of all these things that you want to think of, like think of me of like us like the meanest, baddest, evil, something along like the lines of like I'm not human and I can only tell you the story of these humans just because I don't feel connected to them. And it kind of opened up like my eyes to like books don't just have to be about like immense like action packed stories, or like they don't have to be about like a super like emotional like struggle that someone's having. Like you can literally have just pages filled with like mundane like everyday activities. You're falling into the book because these characters they draw you in because they're just so human, and the relationships that they've built within those pages, they keep you invested. And I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed that book so much, and why like I still talk about it now, just because it gave me that sense of we really are just like yearning for connection with others. And that book was one of those things which is like I found that connection between those characters, and I felt like what they felt by like the tragedies that they faced or the struggles that they came upon, the happy moments that they had. It was a really like great read, very emotional too.
Wow, that's very heavy for a middle school.
Very heavy for a middle schooler, and I think that's why they didn't read it. So I ended up reading it by myself, and
but that's a great thing.
Yeah, and I loved it so much. And the thing is, I had read the book in Spanish, so I didn't even know it was an English novel originally. I had read it in Spanish, and then I found out it was in English, and I bought the English version.
Have you read the English version?
No, I prefer the Spanish version. I read the first few pages and like I prefer the Spanish version.
Is it because you already have like the idea and all the words in your mind, and it's like this is not the same. This doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, but I mean, I still love it.
The story is still the same. Amazing. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So, would I infer that that was the book that got you into reading, or did you had another book before that was like, wow, I want to start. I want to start reading.
Oh, one of the first books I remember reading, and this was in elementary school. When I was in that book club, it was, I don't remember the title of it, but it was like a sort of like create your own story type of books. Like, you know, those books that now like you can like choose like, I don't know, how do you describe them? Like choose your own adventure type of thing. But it was kind of like it was like a mystery book and like a puzzle book. It was super like cool. I remember
That
like
sounds like a cool book.
and so like I was like I feel like for you to get like into reading, like you have to have fun with it. And I think that like that being my introductory like book to like reading, which is like I'm having so much fun reading and I want to continue like finding these stories that like have me entertained. And I think that's why like I'm so like inclined to just like keep reading and finding like new stories and falling in love with new characters, just because like I love all this they're doing. Like that seems so cool. Like, oh my gosh, like I relate to that totally.
How old were you when you read that one?
How old would someone be in third grade? 9, 8?
Oh,
9, 8 years old?
That's so cute.
A long time
That's
ago.
so cute.
10 years ago. It's a long time ago.
No, don't say that. We are the same age. Don't say that. But yeah, that's great. That's really cute. But do you have like someone in your life that also reads, or you have always been the book nerd?
I've always been the bookworm in my family, among my friends. I don't think I've had anyone tell me like you should read more. I think I've always been the one telling people that they should read. I think I've always been the one telling people they should read. Like you definitely like fall in love with something if you like really like try.
Have you ever met a person and be like, oh, this person will like this book?
I don't have that radar. I know there's people out there who like they look at you and they're like, you're into this, aren't you? And you're like, how do you know?
You don't have that?
I don't have that, sadly.
Okay, but what would you say to another student to make them read more?
I feel like if you want people to read more, they should try to find stories that they feel they can relate to. For example, some of the ones that I read that I feel like a lot more connected to are the stories about that just like have elements in them that you feel like are elements part of your story. You know, for example, if you have a young child and let's say they're like a young Latino kid that just came to the United States and they want something like to feel like related to, like there's a lot of stories out there by Latino authors who had that same experience and who had those same feelings about feeling unsure in a space that they probably didn't feel was their own. You could definitely like have that be an introductory to like stories that they'll enjoy, and you just build up that relatability. And as you do, I feel like you start wanting to like open up your horizon and find new stories that you can find little like bits and pieces that you can relate to, even if they're not the same as yours. Like I think it's just like introducing that relatability factor and having that be the driver for reading more.
That's a great point, actually. I think that even if you are reading the story for the first time and you don't really know the character, but there's this character that does this thing or says this thing or shows this thing, and you're like, wow, same. Like, same. And that makes you want to read more about that character, because it is like, in a sense, like reading about yourself too. When you read and you find characters that are relatable, that also connects to you and what things you can do or say or be. So yeah, I think that there's a story for everyone, and everyone can find a story that can tell their own, because that's also another factor that you mentioned. Like, for example, if a little kid finds this story and they are like, wow, I have also feel this same way, but I have never had the words to say it. Maybe with that book they can be like, wow, now I have the words to say. Now I can explain it with this and with this example and that. So that's a great point. That's really lovely. So now I'm going to ask you one of your favorite questions. Who is your favorite book character?
Who's my favorite book character? Okay, so to the people who know me, they know that my nickname, everyone calls me Percy, and it's because I've always been one of my favorite book series is Percy Jackson, and let me tell you a story. Freshman year, I came to ELC, and I met a couple people, and they were like, "Oh, like, what's your name, right? I told my name, and then you'd see me every day walking around with a Percy Jackson book and be like, okay, you're Percy now.
Oh,
Because you
God.
never shut up about Percy. You always talk about how much you love the series, and I'm like, I think it's just because I feel so much like relatability to him. He's literally me, like probably like undiagnosed neurodivergent. I think I like to believe I find like some like he has like these little quirks, and like I find like again like it's the relatability that I feel to the character, and I think that's why I think he's one of my favorite characters of all time, just because like he's very spontaneous, he's very chaotic, he's like very big airhead, and and I literally like I'm like that's me, guys, that's me.
But that shows how a character can have impact in one's personality.
Yeah, because now literally everyone I know, they call me Percy.
I knew that you chose Percy as a nickname because of the character, but I didn't know that it was because you freshman year. You were like that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cute though. That's so cute. Okay, so as our final question, there's anything that you want to say to our listeners, maybe a student, a teacher, a parent that would like to pick up a book, or just in general something that you would like to add?
I think right now, currently, we should start, like, especially now that we live like in a very digital world, I feel like reading and literature itself is kind of like dying out, and people are not really looking into reading as an entertainment form, and I think that should change, especially starting with like parents. You know, instead of giving your kid an iPad or a phone to entertain them, like read them a nighttime story, or lend them a book with like pictures in it, because not only are you developing their ability to like read and like write, but you're also introducing them to stories that they'll enjoy, and you're opening up their worldview to things that are different than their experiences, because you know they're young children, right? Like I'm thinking like elementary school kids, like they're young, they're naive, they know nothing, like they only have you, they only have their friends at school, like that's their whole life, right? And I feel like giving them books opens up their worldview to like a whole bunch of possibilities of like fantastical stories full of emotion, even if it's like very simple books like Cat in the Hat, you know, like it,
Great book.
great book, you know. That's my recommendation actually. The Cat in the Hat.
Yeah,
y'all should read the Cat in the Hat.
Any what is his name?
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss book. Any Dr. Seuss book is a recommendation. There's no one.
Green Eggs and Ham. That's another one. I love Green Eggs and Ham. You know, change my top 3. Put Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, and One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish.
Wow, that book is great. That's our top 3. I relate to that.
That's my top 3. Okay. But yeah, like I think parents should just like, even if parents don't like it themselves, even if parents don't like reading, you should introduce your kids to books early on to get them to read. Just because I feel like they'll have like a better like understanding of like the world around them. They'll be like exposed to like experiences that are not their own. Kids are creative. Kids have imaginations, and they need to like let that like surface and manifest, and books are definitely like a gateway to that. And I think it's very important for parents to just introduce them to that themselves.
Yeah, that's such a great message. I agree with what you say about how literature is now being like pushed a little to the side, or maybe just being a different type of literature, being more reduced. So yeah, I also think that it will be great for kids, like their imagination, their creativity, and also like their what you say, the world that they can see, and because with a book they can also see other people's lives. And that can make them feel more creative or more empathetic. So yeah, that's a great final word. Thank you so much for being here, Percy. I am so happy that you are our first guest. You make me feel so comfortable because, fun fact, Percy and I are really close friends. And it makes me so happy to have you here as a person. You have great ideas. You are absolutely a book nerd. A certified book nerd. So I hope everyone liked our talk. Thank you so much for listening to us, for being here with us. I hope that everyone enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you.